Howdy folks, it's me, Josh. Numerous presidents in history have been lauded as some of the greatest to ever hold the office. People such as George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Theodore Roosevelt. But none of these men have ever been able to match the 5'11" heights of the real greatest president in history. A man truly larger than life. I'm talking the likes of Grover Cleveland. Now, obviously, it's a well-known fact that Grover Cleveland was easily the most physically attractive person to ever walk on the face of the earth, but even that pales in comparison to his numerous well-known and greatly impactful acts as president, such as lowering protective tariffs by a bit. Greatest president to have ever existed, maybe even one of the greatest men of all of history. But what truly, before proceeding to carry around the most ridiculously oversized glass you've ever seen. And yet, despite the obvious greatness of this magnificent man, America would end up making easily the greatest mistake in its entire history by voting to replace him with Benjamin Harrison. But realizing that Harrison could never live up to the absolute glory of Cleveland, America quickly realized its mistake as they carried Cleveland back to Washington on a golden chariot. But, of course, America was doomed to make the same mistake yet again by replacing him with William Jennings Bryan on the Democratic ballot in 1896, missing out on their one and only chance for total Grover Cleveland domination. And this mistake would prove fatal to the United States, as not only would they miss out on the possibility of the Grover Cleveland Empire, but upon rejecting him, Cleveland would put a curse on America, forcing them to inevitably invent Funko Pops. But what if that changed? What if, in an alternate timeline, Grover Cleveland never left? Hey, Grover, it's time to leave. Is it, Melville? I was only getting started. But, Mr. President, William McKinley is gonna be inaugurated tomorrow. There's something I've been working on, Melville. Would you like to see it? No, Grover, it's time for you to go. No, Melville. It's time for you to go. Grover Cleveland pushes a button on his desk which instantly transforms Chief Justice Melville Fuller into a pile of cheese, which Cleveland proceeds to eat. And then, he walks out towards the Capitol building, in which he declares the US Constitution completely null and void, and himself as the supreme head of the United States. Outraged by this, literally the entirety of the United States declares war on the singular person of Grover Cleveland, and the nation breaks out into civil war between the US federal government and literally just Grover Cleveland. Now, of course, the US government is completely outmatched in this fight. Even if they had managed to develop nuclear bombs, there is still absolutely no chance in which they could stand up to the might of Grover Cleveland. And their situation becomes even worse when Grover enlists the support of his good friend, Boris Yeltsin. Grover's enlisting of Boris's support would prove pivotal in the Second American Civil War, as he's instantly sent on a covert mission to run around DC drunk and naked demanding a pizza, which deters any potential attacks on the White House. But this is not nearly as important as a trick up Grover's sleeve that he's been waiting to unleash. Not willing to risk a direct confrontation with Yeltsin, the US Army instead surrounds Washington, D.C. as they lay siege to the city. But, appearing over the horizon, an armored colossus marches towards US troops, revealing the creation of Mecha Cleveland, a mech suit that Grover had spent his last term creating. And those that don't immediately run and flee at the sight of this titan get instantly eviscerated by the built-in howitzer in its arm. Great Grover, a 500-foot statue of the glorious leader. After this disastrous defeat, the Grover Cleveland then consolidates his rule as he instantly forms close ties with Romania, Ethiopia, and Afghanistan due to their obviously similar geopolitical aims, forming the Cleveland Powers, which soon sees the induction of Germany and Austria-Hungary as well, seeking alliance with Cleveland. By the time of the outbreak of the First World War, the Cleveland Powers end up going to war with the Entente, as Grover Cleveland personally leads the German charge into France, leaving Boris Yeltsin to govern the American homeland. The use of Mecha Cleveland as a primary weapon leads to a near-immediate Cleveland Powers victory, as the armed forces of France cannot possibly defeat such a thing. As a result of this victory, Germany annexes all of Switzerland, Austria-Hungary annexes Australia, the Ottoman Empire annexes Russia, and the US annexes every single country in the Americas, while the defeated Entente nations, except Russia, are all put under the control of a Cleveland puppet government. Back at home, though, Boris Yeltsin is getting a bit power-hungry, attempting to undermine Grover's authority over the nation at large. However, upon Grover's return and realization of Yeltsin's nefarious deeds, he then promptly turns him into cheese and eats him. With the whole world now at his whims, Grover unites all of the fractured nations into one world government run by himself. No more shall petty squabbles divide humanity as people needlessly kill themselves in fruitless wars. No, the Grovocracy is born. So, as I'm sure you can all obviously tell, this was an April Fool's video, and also the most ridiculous script I have ever read in my entire life. But hey, if you want to check out some of my actual alternate histories, make sure to stick around for more. And hey, you could also, maybe, subscribe or something. So that's it for today's video. Well, till next time, see ya.